things off now. Thanks again, everyone, for hopping on with us today. We've got Jurie Victor here with Spikeballs. So without any further ado, I'll hand things off to Paul McDonough.
Great. Thank you very much, Paige. We're very excited to have Jurie Victor as our guest here and on the Spikeball team. So as far as introductions here, we'll just flip to the next slide and get going. We'll do a brief introduction of myself and Appficiency, and then we'll talk. I'll let Jurie introduce himself as well. From there, we'll just jump into a little bit about Spikeball. Spikeball is a very interesting company, very interesting history. I think everybody on the call here will find this very interesting. Some of you may have played it before, but there's a lot of evolution, and it's a very interesting story as far as how it came together. And then we'll maybe talk a little bit about the business here as far as, what did they do from an ERP perspective, why NetSuite, why Appficiency, and really make this more of a conversation, and that Jurie will be leading, followed by some Q&A as well. So if anybody in the audience does have questions for Jurie or Appficiency, feel free to chat those in there, and we'll try to cover as many as we can at the end of this presentation. So just formally, my name is Paul McDonough, one of the principals at Appficiency. Really head up our sales and business development organization here at Appficiency. Been here since we started the company about 6 years ago. Previously worked at NetSuite for about 6-7 years as well, and have been in the ERP space for significantly longer than that. I've kind of stopped counting at 20 years, but I'll give you a little bit of my background. And then Jurie Victor, our guest here, I'll let him introduce himself, but we're really gracious to have him be part of our extended family at Appficiency, and he's been a great supporter of Appficiency, of NetSuite, and the overall project that Spikeball ran with us as well. So Jurie, I'll hand it over to you. And I think you might be
You are muted.
There you go.
Standard Zoom issue. I think everyone's been there before. Thank you, Paul, for having me. It's a really great privilege to be able to share our story with you guys here today. I think just being here, one thing that it indicates to me is that we successfully transitioned into NetSuite. So that's kind of the victory. If that wasn't the case, we would probably not have had this conversation yet. So knowing that we've successfully transitioned and we can share our story and the road to get to where we are now, it's really great to be able to do that today. I'm Jurie Victor. I'm the Director of Finance and Accounting at Spikeball. I've been with Spikeball full-time since 2017. Prior to that, I was part of the outsourced accounting, accounting and the kind of financial management of Spikeball in as that outsourced function. Started working behind the scenes here around late 2015, took over their account in 2016, and then kind of been a part of that kind of hockey stick growth. 2017 went full time, and then just experienced massive growth for Spikeball. So it's been really great to be one of the first people involved in setting up things and being a part of it from the outsource function all the way through to where we are today. It's been quite an amazing journey so far.
Great. Thank you so much, Jurie. I'll maybe kick things off with providing the audience a little bit of background. Some on the call, I recognize some names, so you're familiar with Appficiency, and definitely we want to hear more about Spikeball and their journey. But just to give you some context on who we are, and there's a bit of a story on the slide here. So and you'll see there's some parallels as far as how we started compared to how Spikeball started as well. So it's no wonder our companies, the chemistry and the project was a success. So, but just to give you an idea, we are a tech startup as of 6 years ago. We've had significant growth and, really providing solutions for various types of organization. In this case, around retail, we have a lot of experience there. We have some smaller companies, some larger companies, including a Fortune 500 company as well. So really, at Appficiency, we take pride in being able to offer solutions for our customers that we like to think that nobody else can solve. So that's really one of our marquees in the marketplace. We like solving business challenges for our customers. In the retail space specifically, there's a number of those as well. So we get into things like, yes, you have an ERP system, does your transaction backbone, managing inventory, warehouse potentially, that sort of thing. But then there's always other applications that come into play from an overall solution footprint and tying into other systems like e-commerce systems, like WMS systems, warehouse management systems, other tools as well. So that's where Appficiency also plays a strong role in being able to help our customers integrate all those applications together. I think you'll get a bit of a sense for how that came to be with Jurie and the Spikeball team as they walk through this process. So with that, we'll jump into the next slide, and I'll let Jurie take it from here, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks, Jurie.
Thanks, Paul. So to kind of give the fireside story of Spikeball, my CEO, Chris Ruder, who was on that first slide, he didn't invent the game. The game was invented in the 80s, kind of a just basic backyard game, had this retro kind of design on the box. And Chris, growing up in Southern Illinois, big family, a few brothers and sisters and cousins, all kind of close-knit, living down there. They had this game back in the 80s, and they played it a little bit, but the age gaps didn't put them in a place where it was always as competitive as they would like to be. So the older kids always kind of hogged the set a little bit more. But as they grew up here in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, Chris, his family, cousins, some of the close friends from growing up, they went on a vacation to Hawaii. Chris grabbed this game out of the basement, and they are now all adults, and they were playing against each other on the beach. A couple of things happened there is, one, they fell in love with the game all over again, but so did other people seeing it. So people came over and they asked, what is this? How does it work? Where can I get one? And Chris always says that was the moment where a light bulb went off. Came back to the US and started digging through where is this game? What happened to it? Found the inventor, started kind of talking. And this guy didn't really want to get too involved again or put any resources in it again. No trademark existed, no patent existed. So Chris went ahead, did all of those things, established the company in 2008, created a website, and started selling sets through our Spikeball.com website. And that's kind of in 2008 where it all started. Now, we'll go through some of the slides as well and talk about the history, so I don't want to give too much away. But basically, Spikeball, of those who haven't seen it before, it's love child. If volleyball and Foursquare had a love child, same rules, 2 versus 2, 3 touches, bump, set, spike. But this time, instead of over a net, it's onto this net, this trampoline-looking thing. The beauty of it is, and I think that's what really gives it a different dynamic, is most sports that we know is a 180-degree game. Football is 180 degrees. Volleyball is 180 degrees. Where Spikeball is, the moment you serve it, it's a 360-degree game all around the net. And that really changes how the dynamic and the strategy and all of this is, to where it's beer in hand, play in the backyard, having fun, or at a tournament as competitive as it can get. And I think that is the appeal of Spikeball. And it's definitely one of those games/sports that are easy to learn, but it's hard to master. And after 2009 until now, we've definitely seen a significant kind of that viral growth, not just in the USA, but also internationally, which just makes us really excited for the future of this sport as well. And I know as we'll go through it, we'll touch on it. So the bottom there you'll see Spikeball versus RoundNet. And the differentiation there is that Spikeball is the brand. Like a Nike or a Wilson, that's the brand of the company, and the sport itself is called RoundNet. So we have to differentiate between those two to prevent a common use term in Spikeball. And a lot of people use those interchangeably, but from a company's perspective, from how we differentiate those, Spikeball Inc., the brand, the manufacturer of and seller of sporting equipment for the sport of RoundNet. So if I say RoundNet instead of Spikeball, that's the reference to the sport and not as much to the product. So as I said, in 2008, Spikeball.com launched, started selling sets, and I think in that first year or so, I think it was the total sales probably like $10,000. And from 2009 until 2013, it was really just Chris still having a full-time job and selling sets out of his basement, filling his Subaru Outback up with Spikeball sets, driving to UPS or USPS and sticking on the labels and sending out these sets. A lot of kind of university students saw this, got involved, asked how they could help. And slowly but surely, a community started forming. And in 2012, the first Spikeball tournament was held. And that was really kind of the thing that ignited this viral kind of, this is a sport, it's more than just a backyard game, and the competitiveness of it. And then we started seeing the sales really taken off. 2013, $1 million in sales, and Chris and Scott, our COO, Scott got hired and said, okay, he's a CEO, he's going to implement systems in order for a more smooth and kind of a correct business way of selling sets. And then Chris also decided he was sure enough in the future of the business where he can go full-time as well. And that happened all in 2013. So in 2014, sport really kind of got some traction, and Dick's Sporting Goods becomes the first major retail customer. Now, at that point, Spikeball didn't really have the capacity to fulfill this major demand. And they considered going to Shark Tank. Chris did the application, and they filmed the Shark Tank episode in 2014. At that point, 4 or 3 of the guys who were working on the ground, these students that I referred to earlier, they were hired full-time, and there were 75 tournaments held all over the country by independent people, not specifically organized by Spikeball itself. So that's really where that indication came, is that there's definite growth and there's definite demand. 2015, the Shark Tank episode airs. Amazon USA, we diversified. We started selling on Amazon USA, and Dick's Sporting Goods sales just exploded. We also launched Amazon Canada, and there's a lot of things that happened with the Shark Tank episode itself. A deal was closed on the show, which was, of course, there was a huge watch party and everyone was really excited, a little bit before my time. But as some of you might know, or some of you not, that's not always just there, the handshake, and now it's set in stone. There's a lot of due diligence that happened behind the scenes. And somewhere along the line, Damon John, who was the shark who agreed to invest, and Chris didn't necessarily see the vision of the company the same, where Chris really wanted to be the next great sport. Damon was thinking mass production, licensing, Marvel Studios, Spider-Man, Iron Man, kind of more of a toy. So even though they closed the deal on the show, the deal never formally closed and no equity was given to the shark afterwards. So 2016, 2017 really were the years we saw that exponential growth. The international expansion, we had Amazon Canada starting to do really well, Amazon EU, which consists of Germany, the UK, well, technically probably still Europe, Italy, France, and Spain, those driving the sales for us in Europe. And at that point in 2017, I came full-time in-house because just the growth justified to bring that function internally. And it was at that point where I identified the need for a single ERP system that will meet that future growth need. With this level of growth and seem to have a sustainable growth pattern, the operations became significantly more complex, but the demand for more complex reporting in order to make financial decisions was evident, and we wanted to address that. So currently, kind of jumping forward a couple of years, massive expansion. We now have 40 full-time employees. We have 3 international employees, 1 in Canada and 2 in the UK. Our international sales alone last year was $11 million for over 100 countries. Australia being one of our huge Southern Hemisphere countries, and then Chile, Brazil starting to pick up. We definitely, our European sales, Germany being a great driver of sales, and I think the sport in general just really growing in Europe. We were supposed to have our first Spikeball Roundnet World Championship tournament in Belgium last year. Due to COVID, that was postponed, and we will have that this year. So that's really exciting to have countries compete all over the world and really just put a stamp on the legitimacy of the sport. So we also established last year the International Roundnet Federation. This is a 501c3 in order for us to start moving towards that Olympic application, that recognized sport. It needs to be a non-profit entity. So we've established that in order to kind of start driving that process to become Olympic and a recognized Olympic sport. So in 2020, if we consider in 2008, $10,000 of sales, in 2020, we did 820,000 units all over the world. So exceptional growth. We also purchased our own warehouse, still in Kankakee, Chris's hometown there in Southern Illinois. We also went through an acquisition in 2020 of software company that is specifically designed and created to track Spikeball or Roundnet tournaments. So player profiles, serving statistics, all of these types of things wrapped up here, tournament registration. So the company itself, more complex, focusing on that sports development, but also making sure that our operation maintains efficiency with complexity. So how did we get to where we are? So as I said, 2017 started having the conversation, and I said that these were our things that we really had to consider. We have to have powerful and multi-dimensional reporting, the ability to slice and dice data from all various kind of customized data points. We want channels and regions have to be things that we can slice and dice sales data and profitability data and all this kind of things that we wanted to be able to dial in at a reporting level and not have to do a million things in Excel to get to the same answer. So we wanted well-designed workflows that kind of fit with our business model. Inventory, imported inventory. We're not a manufacturer, so it had to have the importing capability, and then of course the distribution capability. multiple countries, multiple currencies. The Amazon and e-commerce integration, a huge part of our business is Amazon all over the globe, as well as our website, spikeball.com. We fulfill sets on our spikeball.com channel all over the globe. Very much, as I said, an inventory-focused business to keep live track of our inventory and not have to spend hours on reconciliations and all of these types of things. Like I mentioned, the international sales portion, sales tax, the tax automation with various countries and various jurisdictions, multi-currency. And then the one thing for me that was always going to be important, I am a huge proponent of the AP solution, Bill.com. Since I started using it in 2015 as AP solution with QuickBooks Online and then further with QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. I'm comfortable. I know it works. I trust the system. And for me, that was a must-have, is I want something that can integrate with Bill.com as the AP solution. I needed to implement a system that can scale as well. And the design before we go into integration was the most important part for me. And that's the part that took me the longest, is it wasn't just a matter of taking out from one system and just duplicating exactly into the new system and off we went. I wanted to change the things that we were doing it because I recognized where the faults or the shortcomings were in the way we were doing it and reporting. So I wanted to really have the opportunity to design it so that I have that reporting and the structure, the chart of accounts, all those things, the way I want it. So that was probably the part that took the longest, and the most thought went into that from a finance and operations perspective. So why did we go with NetSuite? Definitely the integration portion, just because we want to automate as much of those processes as possible. We use a solution called Celigo to facilitate those integrations from our Amazon channels, the US, UK, Canada, Germany. All of our channels are feeding all that data into our system live, and that includes the shipping portions of it, the refund portions of it, the fulfillment portion, the fee portion. Amazon is somewhat of a complex beast of its own, and pulling in all of that data and automating it was really important for us, as well as our Spikeball.com website. Definitely one of the things that stood out to me was the superior reporting. I think from what I've learned over the last 5-6 months, the save searches function within NetSuite is really, really powerful, and I am just barely starting to scratch the surface. If I see some of the things that our team at Appficiency are capable of doing, it's phenomenal. So I'm excited to get to that point. The other thing that was really important to me is to really align the design of my chart of accounts with how I wanted the financial reporting to be. Just, I want to be able to provide my CEO with as clear as possible data, and not specifically just a bunch of numbers, but data that can be easily digested in order to indicate the strength of the business, where the opportunities lie, profitability by channel. Like we refer to channels as our Amazon channel and our wholesale channel, our Spikeball.com, or the region that we're selling into. Are we doing better with one product in Canada than in another place? So we can direct our marketing efforts to this product instead of that product. So kind of things like that, just really, but it has to be at the tip of our fingers. We didn't want to spend hours and hours in Excel trying to figure this stuff out. So NetSuite e-commerce, for that retail customer, our business to business, we went with what's called SCA, and it's, I'm so used to saying SCA that I Suite Commerce Advanced, I think it's called.
That's right.
And we we are using that for our mom-pop stores, our mid-level retail industry, which is easy to access, an onboard platform with automated checkouts and payment options and all of this kind of thing. So it takes a lot of that stress off of our wholesale and retail department, the sales department, the people who take in these orders. So we've been able to automate a lot of this stuff and not necessarily have to bring on 5 or 10 more people just to be able to process orders. We kind of put that responsibility back onto the other business. And it's just been working wonderful over the last 6 months with the Suite Commerce Advance. The other thing is we have a full-time integration specialist on our team as well. And one thing that NetSuite allows us to do is to build, to kind of access the code and to build integrations and automations, write scripts, and help us out pulling certain data points where it allows us to touch the system and the data less, which of course reduces the chance that errors occur in any system. I think one of the most important things when we considered who we're going to work with, I knew, and from the conversation that I had with NetSuite, is that we are going to set up something that's very complex, a lot of integrations, a lot of mapping, and not something that is going to necessarily be the best fit for the NetSuite internal integration team. We wanted to change too many things and we wanted to have too many customizations. So I was introduced to Paul by our sales executive at NetSuite. We definitely wanted to use that third-party resource because of those complexities with the integration and those designs we wanted. We wanted to have dedicated experts. And I think where the change maybe come in is when we use a third party, it's not as much of just getting it done. It's about getting it done right and kind of having that relationship that whenever you need something additional, because we're not done. When NetSuite is integrated and set up and everything works, we've got a list of other things that we want to work on, that we want to plug into the system. And we've already identified that Appficiency is more than capable and has been phenomenal in the way that they've approached these things, that we are setting up probably a 2 to 4 year partnership to get these things done. So after I met Paul and we had a conversation and we threw a couple of ideas around, I was sold. I knew that Appficiency was going to be the company that we're going to work with. So very happy for that recommendation. Kind of just on a single page here to see what our system landscape currently is. So new ERP system, we've got NetSuite. We're bringing in our sales from Amazon, all of those different Amazon marketplaces internationally as well. Our Shopify, we have an international EU domain Shopify, and then our local US-based Shopify that still serve all of our international customers as well. We have Bull.com, tried and trusted AP solution. We use ShipHawk. Recently started our partnership with them for our domestic fulfillment needs. We use Shipwire as a third-party logistics service, and they do our warehouse storing for us in Europe and in Australia, as well as fulfillment out of their locations for our Shopify. We use Monday.com. There in the central is a dashboard, a pulse board that pushes information left and right. It's kind of our hub between operations, procurement, fulfillment, and finance. And here everything happens. It's our reference point. And we set up Monday because we had a 2-system solution, QuickBooks Desktop in one place, and we had order fulfillment or inventory fulfillment platform in another. And these 2 systems didn't talk with each other at all. So everything that happened in the one had to be essentially duplicated. And what's in the one system, past sales and inventory, does not exist in the other system. And I think a lot of people out there probably have something similar to that. And that's why you're looking at ERP system and you're looking at NetSuite. So Monday was kind of that link for us initially between these two systems and having as much of the information in one place as we possibly can. We've developed a lot more on how we use Monday to communicate with our warehouses. It's just a great place where we aggregate all of our data. Then we use a FileMaker that is outside database that we can customize as much as we can. Our integration guy, Logan, has been playing around with it, working with it a lot, developing a lot on it. And we can do a ton of things, automations, APIs. And that was one of the reasons we went with NetSuite as well, because whatever we can do in that system, we can create whatever record we want or feed anything into NetSuite and populate transactions and records that way as well. Recently started using this platform called Catalytic. It's an AI system. It essentially replaces a lot of the manual work. As long as you can set up a workflow, you can program the system to do whatever the steps in that workflow. Go pull a PDF file from here, put it there, create something else. So we're trying to also improve. As we're improving and growing from an operation standpoint, we also want to explore more of the technology side of it and keep a leaner operations on a human resource part and use the technology and the AI that's out there to kind of facilitate these repetitive tasks that we'd rather have a system do it than a person do it. SPS Commerce, that's our EDI platform that we use, and we have recently started the conversation with Appficiency as well and scoping out that full integration. And then Celigo is the facilitator between bringing our Amazon and Shopify records into NetSuite. So that's that automation part. And then Fuango is the name of our tournament software that will be tracking all the activity from a tournament level, player profile, registrations, all of that, all of those things related to our tournament and the sport in itself.
Great. Thanks so much, Jurie. A lot of very fascinating detail on Spikeball and the journey to NetSuite, navigating a number of different systems along the way and tying it together to ultimately help the business run more efficiently. So just a couple questions for you. As far as one of them is just implementing an ERP. I think a lot of people may be on this call that might be contemplating it. It's obviously a big time commitment for the organization, and I guess how did you know you were ready, and then how did Appficiency really, or just for that matter, the firm that supported you, in this case it was us, but how were you able to lean on them to assist you through this process?
Thanks, Paul. That's a great question, and I think our company values, one thing that we really try to live by as much as possible. Number 4 is to go big, and failure is part of that success. So this was going to be the biggest project that Spikeball and Spikeball's employees would ever have to conduct up until now. We have a young team. Most people, including myself, have never been through a data migration and implementation at this scale. But we do know our portion of our job as functional leaders and those below really, really well. One thing that we wanted definitely from a partner was we expected Appficiency, and I was candid about this right off the bat, is don't leave us at our own devices, because we don't know. We don't have the experience. We are here and we're relying on you guys to guide us through and make these suggestions and recommendations on where you see that we're veering off and we're going into a direction that would in the future not be scalable, or just bring that level of expertise from the years of experience and seeing how other companies have done it to the table and kind of guiding us through the process. And I think that was, in my opinion, probably one of the major benefits and things that Appficiency did for us is to help us and clearly say that if you're going to do this, these are the things that are going to come down the line. Do it this way. That's standard practice. It fits in your workflow. And later on, you can tweak it this way or that way. So we really relied on the expertise because we were very inexperienced in that process. I think we've learned a lot from Appficiency. They were always open in why they're doing something and what the benefits of those things were. So for all of us in the operation function and finance, it was probably like a major learning opportunity as well. And for that, we are very thankful. And I think I speak for our entire team. It says like Appficiency really guided us through this process to where we are.
No, that's excellent. Yeah, thank you so much. We're gracious to hear that. We like to think we're an opinionated group, but also, want to provide options that make sense. Another question for you, if you don't mind, as far as like looking at the integration points, you have NetSuite's obviously the hub. It's managing that, as you mentioned, that order to cash process, and then a number of other processes outside of that. But then in a complex landscape with integration points, I guess knowing what you know now, is there anything you would do different, like when it comes to integrations and prioritization?
Yes, that's a great question as well. And if I, just to add on, if I had to do it exactly the same, I would probably not have learned anything from the experience. So there's definitely things that I would change or tweak a little bit. So what in fact Appficiency did really well, the exceptional team, the plan was well structured. It was a well planned transition process. They adapted really well. You guys adapted really well when things didn't go as planned. If I had to do it again, I think when it comes to the data that you're bringing over, it's really important that things have to be clean. Do the reconciliation. Make sure what you're bringing into your new system is 100% what you intend to bring into the system. And I think testing as well. I think that was one thing that we probably could have done more of. But on the other hand, you do all this testing, and it's only really with live data when the nuances really come out. So I think the timing that we had on doing this integration, we wanted to do it after our busy season, after the summer. So we were shooting for a September, October going live date. The timing of that was the perfect time for us. It gives us post busy season. There's that little bit of a lull before we go into Christmas, and allowed finance, after the operational portion was transitioned, to kind of close each month, work through some of the potential issues, close the year, and then start fresh 2021 with clean financials, all in one system, everything feeding in. And we had 6 weeks of delay, a little bit of we did segmented cut over in October. If I had to do it again, and this is one of the things is we did twice our revenue this last year than we did in 2019, and almost 50% more, 60% more than we expected to do. So it was just a very crazy and an unbelievably busy year for us in 2020. So we were spread thin. And if I had to do it again, there are small things which I would tweak, but I think our team, with the limited resources of time that we had, the way we dealt with all the challenges that came up, the way Appficiency treated the situation, I don't think that we could have done a significantly materially better job than we have done. So, of course, testing is important. I think Appficiency preached that from day one. Guys, you got to test. And I think that's one thing that we do. And then that data transition, definitely keep the data clean as much as you possibly can. And that's probably one of the drivers of going into an ERP system, is because you feel that your data and what is in your systems aren't actually as good as they should be, or they're in two separate systems or something like that.
No, that's great. And you'll definitely hear us say testing is important. And you probably got sick of us saying that. I'm but maybe a follow on to that, like, because you're probably not unlike a lot of NetSuite customers where companies are growing, they're coming from multiple systems, they either need to replace one or more, integrate to others. And then you're growing like crazy with like a limited resources. How did you know you were ready? Or did you? Or was it just something like, hey, we have to do this because if we want to keep the business moving, we have no choice? I'm just wondering how that came to be.
Yeah, and that was exactly as you mentioned there, is when will the need for a new system arise, was the first question I asked. And in 2017, when I went to my CEO and COO and said, the way that we are set up right now and the direction we are going, this is not a scalable solution. We're going to run into more problems and it's going to take more time. And that's when I said, let's start with an ERP system now, because our 5-year strategic plan says that we're going to do this amount of sales in 2023. I don't want to start a transition into a new system in 2023. I want to be ready in 2020, 2021 to be able to handle a 2023. So that was the time. And I think from NetSuite side, the sales team there and Gino at NetSuite, he was probably gave up on us signing and formally saying, okay, now we're going with NetSuite. Because for me, it was just, as I mentioned in one of the earlier slides, for me, it was, it needed to be, the structure needed to be correct. I needed to think fully through how I want my reporting to look like. What data points do I really want to focus on? And, finance and accounting is kind of downstream from operations. So I had to see what my end result I want and start backing into that and redesigning all of that through to make sure that as that data comes in automated, that it goes where I want it to go. So that design took a long time. And I was at a point also a little bit scared of, I'm redesigning everything. I'm creating this thing and I think it's great. And a year or two down the line, something changes. And now the way I've designed it is now not the right way, or I can't change something. So I was very methodical, and our ops team was a great help. Our COO who built all of this from scratch, we sat and deliberated a lot of what we want to do. And from what my CEO at every month in close meeting and financial review meeting asked, hey, can we get something like this? Can we get this? Can we work on this? All of those little requests went into how do I want to set it up? And once I was comfortable with that, I think it was, I'm trying to think when we had the meeting with NetSuite the first time, probably October or September in 2017 was our first demo meeting, and we didn't sign probably until the end of 2019. And then we started working with Appficiency. So I took my time in that time. I wanted to make sure as an ops team, we were prepared, we understood what needed to be done, that we implemented the changes in the processes that needed to be done in order for us to transition to a system that's not going to necessarily allow us to do whatever we want. We have to stay within a specific lane to get the result we want. So there were a lot of considerations like that. And I think at the end of the day, our timing when we had to do it was perfect. Now, there's, of course, a lot of things that happen that we don't have control of, like a crazy busy year that we didn't expect, and so many other things that flow from that is the working capital situation. Now, all of a sudden, you apply for higher line of credit and things like that. So all of those types of things tie in, and it takes up time that from a transition. But I think from a timing perspective, from where we think we are right now and where we're going, like this was the perfect time to do it. And if we waited another year or two longer, I don't think it would have been as easy and successful as it is right now.
No, that's great insight. Let's see. I'm gonna have another question here, just around. I think this has to do with COVID and how that ultimately maybe impacted you and the project. But I think this project started before we were in a COVID environment, and then ultimately COVID happened, and so the project may have changed a little bit. So as far as maybe give us your sense for, because it's typically what we do when we implement our customers is for the audience here. We do a bit of a hybrid approach. We do some on-site visits with our customers, and then we do a lot of it remote. And I'm just curious to get your input, Jurie, and I know different organizations have different philosophies here, but just as far as on-site versus remote, as you walk through that implementation process, and if there's anything, like in some cases we couldn't do anything, but just wondering if how that impacted you guys.
I think we were very fortunate to be able to have that initial scoping meeting in person. I think it was 3 days in Chicago, Appficiency's team and the Spikeball operations team. And we were able to sit in one room and just get everything out on the table. I think we were very fortunate. I think that was maybe February or March, if I'm not mistaken, before the COVID lockdown started. So we were very fortunate that we were able to do that in one place all together and knock that out. I think the benefit that Spikeball had is that we are and have been a 100% remote workforce all along. So when the lockdown happened, it was no one skipped a beat internally. I think some of it, things that potentially changed, and from an old system or an old way of doing things until where we are now, is we were functioning in silos. Finance in their silo, procurement in their silo, logistics in their silo, and then we have this one system, Monday, that kind of communicates and connects as much as we can. And all of a sudden now we shift into a new system, and we all have to kind of get out of those silos and work on the same farm. So now you're trying to bring all of those things together, and it's almost like everyone has to work in the same system at the same time. So now things come up directly. I think in a lot of times when you have split systems, you don't catch that something is off in 1 month until maybe 2 or 3 months later, depending on how things are set up. So with the lockdowns, now all of a sudden, at least we've had the basics right. Appficiency being just a good tech savvy company. We had a lot of Zoom calls. We had a lot of people on the calls. A lot of things have been recorded. I don't even know how many hours of recording there is, but all of those things were there, and we were still able to communicate. And I think, would there have been a benefit to having 2 or 3 more sessions in person with everyone there? Maybe, but I think the silver lining is Appficiency knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, and then from there they were able to talk to procurement or logistics or whatever separately and understand their workflow, and then almost like a plumbing system where the bathroom's plumbing and the kitchen's plumbing and that plumbing all of a sudden comes together, they knew how to bring that to kind of still fulfill my vision without me always having to be involved and probably taking over the conversation a lot of times. So I think that had a benefit as well, that on Zoom calls and that direct relationship with the functional leaders to solve those problems, because from my position, I don't necessarily know all the inner workings of the logistics side or of the procurement, specifically cutting POs, the relationship with the factory. But I 100% trust every single person in that role, that they know exactly how that works and what it needs to be. And I trust at Appficiency that they knew how I wanted the reporting to be and the structure of the flow of the data to be, so that what those functional leaders had comes to me the way that I wanted to see it. So benefits and kind of probably here and there a con, but I think we were able to kind of get through everything, that it didn't really prevent us from getting the message across and the implementation done.
No, I think that's great insight. Really appreciate that, Jurie. And at this point, I know we're running short on time. There's tons of other questions I personally would like to ask as well, but we just have some housekeeping things to take care of. So again, thank you so much for joining us, everybody on the call. Thank you so much, Jurie and the Spikeball team, NetSuite, for supporting this. And then from a Spikeball perspective, I'll maybe let Paige, if you want to provide just some guidance on what we're doing here with the team as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. So as you know, this is a giveaway. So if you stay on the webinar after we wrap up, there will be a survey appearing on your browser. This will just have a couple questions as well as ask you your address, so that if we do end up selecting you for the giveaway, we will have the correct mailing address for you. If the survey does not pop up, no worries. It'll be included in an email sent to you tomorrow as well. For everyone else, there is a Spikeball coupon code provided on this page. So go ahead and make sure to utilize that for a $10 off coupon. And then finally, if you'd like to contact us, either the Spikeball team or Appficiency team, here's our contact info. But again, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We really appreciate it and hope to see you on our next webinar.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, anybody that I'm looking forward to seeing, I have my own Spikeball kit. We are Spikeballers as well. And as they say at Spikeball, spike on. So thanks again, Jurie, and everybody on the phone today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.